Hey guys, Jeremy here with KISS Aquatic Systems. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the ultra low-tech Nano Reef. Lots of new updates to share on this tank since my last video, which was the 2-year anniversary video of this tank, which I did 4 months ago. So I have recently discovered my love of euphyllias. So we have 4 new corals in this tank. All of them are euphyllias. Also, I have an update on critters and pests. And unfortunately, one of my corals is going through STN, slow tissue necrosis. Talk a little bit about that. And last but not least, we will end on a positive note and talk about growth. Growth has been very good the last few months, and a couple of these corals are about to be promoted and moved up towards higher flow, higher light areas because they've done so well. So before we dive right into the update, just want to remind everyone, in the spirit of keeping it simple, KISS, how simple and how low-tech this system actually is. So this is my lighting system for this tank, and this is my sump. Oh, look at that. Yeah, this tank has light, flow from a power head, and heat from the heater back there, and that's it. So now let's dive into the update and look at some of these new euphyllias. Start with this, my first euphyllia, this wall hammer here that I got about 4 months ago, shortly after the 2-year anniversary video. It's done great, really not much to say about it, to be honest. It's darkened up slightly in color since I've gotten it. Early on, there was some aggression. This coral did sting the cyphastrea to its left, so I re-angled it slightly, and based on the current flow patterns, it hasn't stung anything since. It did not sting this coral to the right. This cyphastrea is the one that's been dealing with the STN that we'll talk about a little bit later. But this wall hammer's been doing great. It's actually the only euphyllia I have that eats and consumes the raw shrimp that I feed it. The other 3 don't really eat the shrimp. So my second hammer, had this one for about a month. It's split from 1 head to 2. Actually, when I got this hammer, in the store it had bright orange fluorescent tips, but in my tank they turned green. So, a little surprising. Still like the coral. Let's move on. The next euphyllia is this frogspawn. I also got this about a month ago. Let's get a little closer look. This guy's done great. One of its heads is splitting from 1 to 2. I did notice when I got this coral that it was covered with tiny white copepods. So I went online and looked at the forums, and a lot of people seem to think that these copepods are parasitic and will damage the coral. I have not actually found that to be the case. In the month that I've had this coral, it's shown nothing but good health and good growth. And the copepods have almost completely disappeared. So I'm not sure if my gobies have something to do with that, but hasn't really been a problem for me so far. This coral has done quite well, and I'm very happy with it. Always wanted a frogspawn like this in this tank. Moving on, the Galaxia, which is also a euphyllia. I got this guy 3 months ago, and also had some sort of hitchhiker issue. So this one, about a week after I had it, I discovered some flatworms crawling all over it. Now these were not euphyllia eating flatworms, but I really never had any flatworms in this tank before, and I didn't want to start now. So I first dipped this coral in iodine, and about 7 or 8 flatworms came off. And that was where, if I did have a quarantine tank, I would have put it in quarantine, but I don't. So I decided, which I have mixed feelings about to this day, to do a freshwater dip. And well, it really wasn't that scientific. I took this coral and I shook it around one of my freshwater tanks for about a minute. And On the bright side, I have not seen any more flatworms on this coral or anywhere else in this tank for the last 2.5 months. But on the downside, I brought this coral to what looked like the brink of death. And it's recovered, as you can see, but yeah, I'm not sure how strongly I would recommend doing a freshwater dip. It can be very tough on corals. This one looks like it's made a full recovery, but it was tough going there. Okay, so those are the new corals and a couple of the pests. Now let's talk about 2 more, or really 1 pest and 1 critter. So around when I got this Galaxia about 3 months ago, I also picked up 6 Bergian Nudibranchs to deal with the Aptasia that I used to have in this tank. I say used to have because the Aptasia is pretty much all gone. It looks like 6 adult Nudibranchs were able to clear up a 20-gallon tank fairly quickly and efficiently. It took them about a month to get rid of virtually all the Aptasia here. So that's awesome. Here's take a quick look at one of the Nudibranchs. And yeah, this little guy did some good work, as did his friends. So what I was planning on doing was catching the Nudibranchs when they were finished and giving them away. But unfortunately, they never came out. And this was, I got the Nudibranchs 3 months ago. It took them a month to clear out the Aptasia, and I never saw them again. So a little bit of a bittersweet story. Just going through the tanks, you can see the rock work, really no Aptasia at all. So again, I was hoping to save the nudies. Doesn't look like I was able to, but I did get rid of 2 years worth of Aptasia growth in 1 month, which is great. So that's the update on all the pests. Now we'll go back to this coral and talk about the STN, slow tissue necrosis, that you can clearly see going on the shaded area of this cyphastrea. So I think the STN was caused by me. It was my fault, as it often is. So I was feeding this coral a lot of raw shrimp to get good growth out of it, and I had been. But I think I was overfeeding this coral chronically. So it started bubbling up quite frequently. And I guess I was feeding too much high protein, high fat, high nutrient food to what is a very small, simple coral with a fairly low amount of flesh to begin with and a low digestive capacity. So don't overfeed your corals. Bad things can happen. In this case, it was STN, which I believe is caused by a lot of bubbling up of the flesh of the coral above the skeleton. I've since stopped feeding the coral, or stopped 90% of the feedings for this specific coral, and the bubbling has stopped. So hopefully the STN has stabilized and this coral will recover. Not entirely sure, still 50-50, but I believe I have addressed the root cause of the STN, and we'll see how this coral does. It was doing great for me before. I've had it for over a year. It quadrupled in size, and I got a little carried away feeding it, and we'll see if we can get it back to growth mode. Okay, so that's most of the update. Let's talk a little bit about growth. So I have a couple corals that are growing well, and I'd like to move them shortly. So this Favia over here has done fantastic, as has this coral. I don't know what it is, right directly in front of it. So you kind of see they've got to be fairly close to the point where the tentacles of the Favia come close to this coral in front of it. And at the same time, this frogspawn, the tentacles of the frogspawn keep coming closer and closer to this Favia seemingly every day. So we're gonna move this guy, if we can, hopefully up about 1 inch or 2. Give it a little bit more light, a little bit more flow. So you can see a little bit more. I'll move back. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to move that coral, that Favia up, probably 1.5 inches up and to the left. This guy, I don't really know what it is. It's grown great, but some of the growth is going away from the light. I'm probably gonna turn it about 10 degrees. give it a little bit more light access. And other fobbies are doing quite well. This one I'm probably going to move forward as well. Once I'm confident that it's encrusted this live rock piece that I've put underneath it. This coral, I've had it for about 6 months. No, longer than that. I've had it for 8 or 9 months. And it's added about 10 new heads. So I definitely want to move it forward, give it a little bit better access to light. But I want to have more confidence that it's attached to this live rock piece and not just a frag plug before I do that. And lastly, but not least, this acan over here. I've had this coral for almost 2 years now. It's done fantastic. It went from 4 heads to 10 heads with a couple baby heads coming off on the sides. So I'm very confident this coral would benefit from more light. As you can see, it's on the far left side of the tank beneath the power head. Light's all the way over here. But I'm not really going to move it. I've been feeding it heavily and it's been growing regardless, but it's clearly reaching towards the light. But I guess I'm able to get good growth regardless from heavy feedings. So I would move this coral. I think in the future I'll consider giving it more light. But for now, it looks good where it is and it's doing fine. So thanks, guys. That's the update. I just wanted to go into all the new things that have happened with this tank over the last 4 months. And yeah, that's it. So hope you enjoyed the video. Take care and happy reefing.